Section 1. The Spark of a Revolution, from Seattle to a Digital Dawn. Some stories begin with a single spark. For Bill Gates, that spark ignited in the quiet tree-lined neighborhoods of Seattle. He was born on October 28, 1955. From a young age, he was a voracious reader, a boy who found comfort and challenge within the pages of books. His mind was a sponge, soaking up knowledge, particularly in the logical worlds of mathematics and puzzles. But it was a new kind of machine that would truly capture his imagination. At the tender age of 13, he encountered a school computer, a clunky, imposing device by today's standards. He wrote his very first program there, a simple game of tic-tac-toe. This was more than a hobby, it was the beginning of a lifelong fascination. The world in the early 1970s was on the cusp of a great change. Computers were largely the domain of massive corporations and government agencies, behemoths that filled entire rooms. But a quiet revolution was brewing with the advent of the microcomputer, a smaller, more accessible machine. In high school, Bill Gates found a kindred spirit in Paul Allen. They spent countless hours learning. They spent countless hours tinkering. They spent countless hours dreaming of a future where computers would be on every desk, in every home. Section 2. The Rise of an Empire, Forging Microsoft. The pivotal moment arrived in 1980, a year that would change personal computing. IBM, a titan of the old guard, prepared to enter the PC market. They needed a crucial component, an operating system. The OS manages hardware and runs programs. IBM approached the small Microsoft team. Gates and Allen didn't have an OS ready, but they saw the opportunity. They acquired a system called QDOS, refined it, and licensed it to IBM as MS-DOS. That deal put Microsoft on the map. The IBM PC powered by MS-DOS exploded in success. Businesses and individuals gained a standardized platform with MS-DOS at its core. Other manufacturers cloned the IBM PC and needed an OS. Microsoft provided it. A virtuous cycle of growth began. More MS-DOS computers led to more software, which made the platform more attractive to consumers. By the mid-1980s, Microsoft was no longer a small startup. It was rapidly expanding, its software becoming the standard for a generation. Bill Gates saw MS-DOS's command line wasn't the future. He noticed work at Xerox PARC and on Apple's early machines. They used a graphical user interface with icons, windows, and a mouse. A GUI was more intuitive and user-friendly. In 1985, Microsoft launched Windows 1.0. It wasn't an instant hit, but it showed the company's direction. Gates poured resources into later versions. The breakthrough came with Windows 3.0 in 1990, then Windows 95's monumental success. Windows 95 became a cultural phenomenon. It brought computing to the masses. The start menu and integrated features made it the default for millions. By the late 1990s, Windows ran on the majority of the world's PCs. Microsoft had become a global behemoth with Bill Gates at the helm. Section 3. The Architect of a New Age, Leadership and Unprecedented Growth. As Microsoft's influence swelled, so did the stature of Bill Gates. He was not just a founder, he was the company's chief software architect. He was an unwavering, demanding leader. Known for his intense work ethic. Known for a confrontational debate style. He drove his teams with relentless pursuit of technical excellence and market dominance. He was deeply involved in the details. He conducted rigorous product reviews. He would challenge every assumption. He would dissect every line of code. This hands-on approach embedded his vision in every product. His leadership wasn't always gentle. It fostered a culture of high standards. It created fierce competition. That propelled the company forward at a breathtaking pace. Under his guidance, Microsoft's growth was astronomical. The company went public in 1986. The soaring stock value quickly created thousands of millionaires among employees. For Gates, the financial rewards were staggering. In 1987, at 31, he became the world's youngest self-made billionaire. That title captured the public's imagination. It cemented his status as a symbol of the new tech economy. But his focus was less on wealth and more on the opportunities it provided. He lived and breathed software. He took think weeks, sequestering himself to read papers and books. He contemplated the future of technology. Gates saw not just the next step, but the entire chessboard of the industry. He knew software platforms create ecosystems. He leveraged that insight to expand Microsoft's reach. The company branched from operating systems into productivity software with Microsoft Office, Word, Excel, PowerPoint. The suite became indispensable for businesses worldwide. It solidified Microsoft's grip on the corporate desktop. His strategic acumen drove expansion. Microsoft became an essential partner for nearly every business. His work reshaped the modern world. Microsoft's standardization unlocked huge productivity gains. It created countless new jobs and industries. Small businesses managed finances on Excel. Students wrote reports in Word. Bill Gates was no longer just a CEO. He was an architect of the information age. His strong opinions and belief in software built a corporate empire. They also laid the digital foundation for much of the 21st century economy. Section 4. Shadows in the Valley. The antitrust storm and public scrutiny. However, the story of Microsoft's ascent is not one of unblemished triumph. As the company's power grew, so did the concerns about its business practices. The culmination of this growing unease came in 1998, when the United States Department of Justice and 20 state attorneys general filed a landmark antitrust lawsuit against Microsoft. The government's core accusation: Microsoft used its operating system monopoly to stifle competition and harm consumers. The trial became a media spectacle, a dramatic showdown between a new economy titan and the legal establishment, casting a long shadow over Microsoft's legacy. A central issue: Microsoft bundled Internet Explorer directly into Windows at no extra cost. That move suffocated competing browsers, most notably Netscape Navigator, the early leader. The government called it illegal tying, leveraging Windows to conquer the internet market. Court proceedings were contentious, and Bill Gates's videotaped deposition, in which he appeared evasive and combative, became a public relations disaster. The court ruled against Microsoft, finding anti-competitive conduct. The proposed breakup remedy was later overturned on appeal, but the verdict still landed as a significant blow. Microsoft faced new restrictions and years of oversight, limiting some business strategies. The case sent a message across tech: no company is above the law. It shifted how big tech would be regulated and scrutinized, a precedent that echoes today. Beyond the courtroom, the case painted Microsoft and Gates as a ruthless predator. Critics accused a strategy of embrace, extend, extinguish. This bully image contrasted with Microsoft's role as an engine of innovation. Legal battles in the US and Europe revealed a complex, controversial side of Gates, showing a man willing to fight fiercely and use every available advantage to win. Well, you know. While Microsoft was busy defending its dominance in the desktop world, the next wave of technological innovation was already beginning to crest, and the company was slow to catch it. The 2000s ushered in the era of mobile computing and the modern internet. And in these critical new arenas, Microsoft faltered. Despite its immense resources and talent, the company failed to establish a meaningful foothold in the smartphone market. Windows Mobile, Windows Phone, Apple's iOS, Google's Android, which offered more intuitive user experiences and more robust app ecosystems. The mobile revolution happened, but Microsoft was largely left on the sidelines. A similar story unfolded in the realm of internet search. While Microsoft had been an early player on the web with its MSN portal, it failed to recognize the transformative power of a truly superior search engine. Google emerged and quickly became the undisputed king of search, building a multi-billion-dollar advertising empire on its back. Microsoft's own search engine, Bing, was a late and costly entry into the market, and despite years of investment, it has never managed to seriously challenge Google's supremacy. These misses were significant, representing a loss not just of market share, but of relevance in the daily digital lives of billions of people. Many industry observers and insiders have pointed to the year 2000 as a turning point. This was the year Bill Gates stepped down as CEO, handing the reins to his longtime colleague Steve Ballmer, while he transitioned to the role of chief software architect. Though he remained deeply involved for several more years, the shift marked a change in the company's center of gravity. Some critics argue that under Ballmer's leadership, the company became more focused on defending its existing Windows and Office cash cows than on taking bold risks in new, unproven markets. The innovative, agile spirit that had defined early Microsoft seemed to have been replaced by a more bureaucratic and risk-averse corporate culture, you know. The consequences of these strategic missteps were profound. While Microsoft remained an incredibly profitable company, it lost its position as the undisputed trendsetter in the technology industry. the cultural zeitgeist shifted away from the PC and toward smartphones, social media, and cloud computing. Companies like Apple, Google, and later Facebook and Amazon captured the public's imagination and the lion's share of market growth. Microsoft, the giant that had once seemed invincible, now looked like a legacy company trying to keep pace. The cost of its intense focus on protecting the Windows monopoly, some argue, was a failure to see and seize the future. Yeah. As the new millennium dawned, Bill Gates began a gradual but profound shift in his life's focus. The relentless drive that had built Microsoft into a global superpower was slowly being rechanneled toward a different, and arguably more complex set of problems. In 2000, the same year, he stepped down as CEO. He took his first major step away from the day-to-day operations of the company he had co-founded. He assumed the new title of chairman, chief software architect, a role that allowed him to concentrate on the broader technology strategy and product vision. It was a clear signal that a transition was underway, moving him from corporate manager to a more strategic elder statesman role. This transition was not an abrupt departure, but a carefully managed process that unfolded over nearly a decade. For years, he continued to pour his energy into Microsoft's technical challenges, pushing for innovation in areas like the Xbox gaming console and the early stages of cloud computing. He remained the company's public face and its most important visionary. However, behind the scenes, his attention was increasingly being drawn to the world of global health and development, sparked by his travels and his growing awareness of vast inequities. He was beginning to think about his legacy in terms that extended far beyond software. The final decisive move came in June 2008 when Bill Gates left his full-time role at Microsoft. He stepped away from the daily grind of product cycles and market share battles to devote the majority of his time and intellect to his philanthropic work. He retained his position as chairman of the board for several more years, and later as a technology advisor, ensuring a sense of continuity. But his departure from an executive role marked the end of an era. The man who had been synonymous with Microsoft for over 3 decades was now embarking on a second career, one aimed not at capturing market share, but at saving lives and reducing poverty. This pivot was one of the most remarkable transformations in modern business history. It was a conscious decision to apply the same intensity, data-driven analysis, and ambition that built a technology empire to the world's most intractable problems. Gates saw philanthropy not as a passive act of charity, but as an active strategic investment in human progress. He was not simply writing checks, he was building a new kind of organization, one designed to tackle systemic challenges with the same rigor and scale that had defined his career at Microsoft. The world was about to see what would happen when one of its sharpest minds turned his full attention from code to humanity. In the year 2000, Bill and his then-wife Melinda officially established the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, merging their previous family foundations into one powerful entity, with an endowment that would grow to become one of the largest in the world. Its mission was both simple and breathtakingly ambitious, to help all people lead healthy, productive lives. The foundation was structured with the same analytical rigor as a technology company, focusing on measurable results and data-driven strategies. It identified key areas where its resources could have the most significant impact, primarily focusing on global health, global development, and education in the United States. Global health became its most prominent initiative. Guided by the belief that every life has equal value, it declared war on diseases affecting the poorest populations. It poured billions into vaccine research, vaccine development, and vaccine distribution, targeting illnesses like polio, malaria, and HIV/AIDS. Working with partners like Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance, the foundation helped immunize hundreds of millions of children, dramatically reducing child mortality in developing countries. Its efforts helped push polio to the brink of eradication. Beyond vaccines, the foundation tackled many issues to alleviate poverty and create opportunity. It invested in agricultural development, helping small farmers in Africa and in Asia increase yields and incomes, fighting hunger and building resilient local economies. In the U.S., it funded numerous education initiatives, improving high school graduation rates, improving college graduation rates, experimenting with new school models, and running teacher development programs. This work was complex and sometimes controversial, but driven by a belief in innovative, scalable solutions. To amplify efforts, Bill Gates and his close friend Warren Buffett launched the Giving Pledge in 2010. The pledge was a moral commitment, an invitation for the world's wealthiest to dedicate most of their fortunes to philanthropy. Hundreds of billionaires have signed on, promising to channel resources to causes they care about. Through the foundation and the giving pledge, Gates reshaped modern philanthropy, championing large-scale, strategic giving. For decades, Bill Gates's personal life was portrayed as relatively stable and conventional, a quiet backdrop to his towering public career. He married Melinda French in 1994. Melinda was a manager at Microsoft, and together they raised 3 children. Their partnership appeared formidable, extending from family life into their shared mission with the foundation. They were seen as a united force, co-chairs of a philanthropic enterprise changing the world. For the public, they represented a model of how immense wealth could be productively channeled for the greater good. This carefully curated image was shattered in 2021 when they announced their divorce after 27 years. The news sent shockwaves through the tech and philanthropic worlds. The split was not just a private matter, it raised immediate questions about the future of their foundation. They said they'd continue as co-chairs, but the divorce invited intense scrutiny into their private lives. In the wake of the announcement, media reports painted a more complicated picture of Gates's conduct. Reports detailed workplace behavior at Microsoft that some described as questionable. Separate reports focused on his meetings with Jeffrey Epstein. These revelations prompted a public re-evaluation of a man long seen through the lens of genius and generosity. The stories were not about business tactics or philanthropic strategies, but about character and personal choices. These issues have added real complexity to his legacy. Defenders point to his contributions to technology and to global health. Critics say his personal and professional conduct can't be separated from his public works. Questions about Microsoft workplace culture and the wisdom of his associations are now part of the story. This public examination is a stark reminder that even the most powerful face scrutiny, and that a legacy is a composite of one's entire life, including its difficult, contested chapters. To assess the life of Bill Gates is to grapple with a story of immense scale and profound contradictions. He is, without question, one of the primary architects of the personal computer age. His vision and relentless drive put software at the center of the technological universe, and a computer on nearly every desk. This achievement alone would secure his place in history, as it fundamentally altered how humanity works, communicates, thinks. The empire he built at Microsoft created immense wealth, not just for himself, but for thousands of employees, and spawned an entire ecosystem of industries that continue to shape our modern economy. Yet that same drive for success led to actions that drew sharp criticism and legal challenges. The antitrust battles of the 1990s revealed a leader willing to use his company's dominance to crush competitors, raising enduring questions about the line between aggressive business and anti-competitive behavior. His company's stumbles in mobile and search also show the limits of that power, a lesson that even the most dominant titan can miss the next great wave of innovation. His story is a case study in the creative forces of corporate power, the destructive forces of corporate power, a demonstration of how a monopoly can simultaneously foster standardization and stifle competition. Then there is the second act, a pivot to philanthropy. So grand in scope, it rivals his first act in technology. Through the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, he has applied his fortune and his formidable intellect to saving millions of lives and tackling some of the world's most stubborn problems. The impact of this work is undeniable, particularly in the realm of global health, where the foundation's investments have helped turn the tide against devastating diseases. This chapter of his life complicates any simple judgment, forcing us to weigh his corporate tactics against his world-changing generosity. He has become a symbol of how the vast wealth created by capitalism can be redeployed to address its failures.